And the reason we beat ourselves up for what we didn't know at the time in breakups specifically is when we get attached to the idea that it would have been way better of a reality for us not to have broken up at all.
This is The Deep Dive with Adam Roa.
What is up, deep divers? It's me, Adam Roa, and thank you for tuning in to the Deep Dive podcast. Today, we are going to be diving into how to stop blaming yourself for your breakup. And this is going to be an interesting one because how to stop blaming yourself for your breakup is by blaming yourself for your breakup. I'm serious. How to stop blaming yourself for your breakup is by blaming yourself for your breakup. Why is this important to understand? Because it means you get to embrace the very thing that you're trying to run from. The resistance to what you're feeling is the thing that's keeping it in place. There's a very common saying, what we resist persists. And so when going through the different stages of a breakup, we will naturally enter into this stage of it where we blame ourselves for the fact that it happened. I know for myself, I was blaming myself and really taking on this radical responsibility, which is incredibly important, and I'll speak to in just a moment. But taking this radical responsibility where when my friends were saying, yes, and what about this? What about the fact that she didn't actually communicate? What about the fact she didn't even just let you know that there was this issue, et cetera, et cetera? I went, yes, and I didn't create a safe space for that. I didn't create enough spaciousness in my own life to really be in tune with her feelings and what was going on, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It was almost like I couldn't even see or accept the things that she had done to contribute to the breakup. I went into the space of it's my fault. If I had just done this differently and this differently and this differently, we wouldn't have broken up. So let me break that down because I want you to understand why that mindset is not the place that you want to ultimately land. One, it makes the assumption that your relationship should have worked out, meaning it should have continued. When we look back at it and we go, wow, if I had just done this differently and this differently and this differently, we never would have broken up. There's the implication that the better timeline for you to be living on is the one in which you didn't break up. But the fact of the matter is you're on the timeline in which you've broken up, which means that the timeline of your breakup is the one that's in the highest alignment with where you want to go because you are manifesting the mountaintop that you're setting with your internal frequency. And I've done podcasts on that in the past. So if you're not sure what I mean by how you're manifesting those different timelines, go back and listen to those or watch those YouTube videos because you are always bringing yourself closer to a mountaintop of what you've set consciously or unconsciously, hopefully it's consciously, of what you're desiring for your life. And so if the breakup has shown up in your life, that means it is in alignment with where you want to go. This doesn't mean you might not get back together. Sure, that happens too. And if you are looking back on the situation through the lens of, wow, if I had just done this or this or this, we'd still be together. And you're holding that belief that it would be a better reality for you to not have broken up, you're doing yourself a massive disservice. Why? Because you're invalidating the growth that you've had to even be able to see the things that you could have done differently. I want to repeat that. The fact that you can even see what you could have done differently is because you have expanded and grown as a human being. Your consciousness, meaning your awareness, now has the capability to see things that you couldn't see before. If you were able to see those things earlier, you would have done them. If you had known, wow, if I had just really prioritize the relationship enough to have like nightly 30-minute to hour-long conversations of just getting to know this person more. If I had, after years and years of dating, not taken it for granted and just, made it a routine that every Sunday was for us. Those sorts of things that I now think about. At the time, I didn't have the awareness. My consciousness wasn't in the space to do those things. And so I could look back on it and go, wow, I really screwed up Or I can look back on it and say, wow, the fact that I can even see those as options now, or the fact that I even want to do those things in my future relationships is a sign of how much I've grown and how much I've learned. Think about your old math tests when you were in third grade or fourth grade. Do you look back at the questions you got wrong in third grade when they asked you, hey, what is 100 times 105? Do you get pissed off at yourself for getting those things wrong? No, you view those tests as just part of how you got to the place that you are now, where you have an understanding of how to do 100 times 105. Similarly, in our growth and expansion and evolution as conscious beings, it's very important for us not to beat ourselves up for what we didn't know at the time. And the reason we beat ourselves up for what we didn't know at the time in breakups specifically is when we get attached to the idea that it would have been way better of a reality for us not to have broken up at all. Now we're invalidating the growth and the learning. We're invalidating the fact that we got a question, quote unquote, wrong on a test, and then we learned from it. So by not invalidating that experience, we open ourselves up to gratitude and appreciation for the growth that we've had. But how do we really allow ourselves to hit that space? Coming back to the original topic, how do we stop blaming ourselves for our breakup? Is we blame ourselves for our breakup, which means that if you are feeling blame towards yourself, if you are feeling guilt, if you are noticing these parts of you that went, I wish I had done this, I wish I had done this, and you're in that natural cycle of blame for all the things that you didn't do, quote, correctly, allow yourself to feel those feelings. Allow yourself to go into it. My suggestion on a very tangible exercise that you can do is take out a journal and every day for as long as it takes until it doesn't feel as if it's super strongly emotionally connected anymore, literally write down, I blame myself for. I blame myself for not creating the space to communicate more with my ex. I blame myself for being so caught up in my own reality that I didn't pay attention to where she was at. I blame myself for thinking that we would be together forever, and so not continuing to date her. All of those things I blame myself for. I'm really angry at myself for. I feel guilty about. And start putting that out on paper. Get it out of the internal crazy whirlwind of emotions and put it out on paper. My suggestion is that you write that stuff down, you rip that out of your journal, and you burn it up. Because it's not about holding on to it. It's about letting it go. If you're someone who knows that you hold on to those emotions for years and years and years, then you get to take conscious action towards letting it go. What does that look like? Bury it in the dirt. I've done that before. I've written out lists. I've taken that paper, I've folded it up, and I've buried it with a tree. And I said, this is eventually going to become soil into this tree, and it's going to be processed, and the earth is going to help move that emotion. I've done that. And so whatever that takes for you, but to arrive at the space where you can let go of the blame and let go of the idea that this relationship would have worked if, you get to move all of this through your system. Let yourself feel that blame. Most people are feeling that blame and they say, I shouldn't feel that. Oh no, screw that person. And they oscillate back between blaming themselves, blaming the other person, feeling guilty about what they're feeling, and just continuing in this cycle of like opening the door, peeking inside and going, oh, there's a bunch of blame in there for myself, and shutting the door. Go into it. Feel it all. And then once you've done that, you're going to notice that it starts to shift. It's literally that simple. As you're listening to this, don't think that you have to do anything more than just feel it and write it all out and process it and move it through your system. You could even speak it. If you're not someone who writes things, speak it. Set yourself up in a meditation and go, I'm angry at myself for this. I'm angry about this. I hate myself for this. I blame myself for these reasons. Let's speak it out loud. The point is, the entire point of this video, of this podcast, is to let you know that you get to feel the blame, the guilt, the shame. You get to move that out of your system, and you'll start to notice that it shifts the perspective that you have on things. You're going to move into the next chapter, whatever those emotions are, and then you can actually have appreciation and gratitude. And when you want to know the turning point, the big turning point in the breakup, it's when you can really land in gratitude. Gratitude for the experience that you had, gratitude for the person that is your now ex, and most importantly, gratitude for yourself. Gratitude for yourself for being willing to feel so deeply, for opening your heart to someone. Gratitude for yourself for the willingness to do the work to move through it. Gratitude for yourself for the person you've become from this process. And that's a key turning point. If you don't move through the emotions, you stay in the blame. You stay in the guilt. You stay in the shame. You don't actually allow yourself to receive and embody the gratitude and appreciation from the lessons. You stop growing. You hold yourself in a stagnant pattern. And energy wants to be in motion. It may feel like you're stuck in sadness, but if you are creating the space to feel that sadness, you're moving. You're moving through it. You're just in a chapter. And one of the hardest ones is the chapter in which we blame ourselves for the breakup. But blame yourself for the breakup. Really blame yourself. And once you've done that, notice the gifts. Notice who you've become. Notice the new life that is available to you in each and every moment because of the breakup. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of this deep diver community. Please share this out with anyone who's navigating a breakup that could really benefit from hearing this. I want to remind you that always, in all ways, you are seen, you are heard, and you are loved.